Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard one of the most baffling maritime mysteries of the 21st century. This is the true story of the MV Lyubov Orlova, a Soviet-built cruise ship named after a glamorous Russian film star that transformed from a luxury liner into a drifting ghost vessel, lost forever in the vast Atlantic Ocean. No crew aboard, no distress signals, just an abandoned hulk rumored to be infested with cannibal rats, vanishing into the abyss in 2013. We'll dive deep into her history, the scandals that doomed her, the frantic searches, and the theories that still haunt sailors today. Buckle up. This tale spans decades, continents, and unanswered questions. If you're ready for a 30-minute journey through fact, not fiction, hit that like button now, and let's set sail. First, let's go back to where it all began. The MV Lyubov Orlova was born in 1976 in the shipyards of Titovo, Yugoslavia, now known as Kotor, Montenegro. She was commissioned by the Soviet Union's Far Eastern Shipping Company, or FESCO, during the height of the Cold War. Named after Lyubov Petrovna Orlova, the iconic Soviet actress often called the Russian Greta Garbo, the ship was designed as an ice-strengthened expedition cruiser for polar voyages. Measuring 100 meters long, with a gross tonnage of 4,251, she could carry up to 110 passengers and 70 crew members. Her hull was reinforced to slice through Arctic ice, and her interiors boasted cozy cabins, a dining hall with crystal chandeliers, a library, a sauna, and even a small swimming pool. Luxuries rare in the austere Soviet era. From the start, Orlova was no ordinary vessel. She was part of the Antonina Nezhdanova class, built specifically for adventure cruises to remote destinations like Antarctica and the Russian Far East. In her early years, she ferried tourists through the frozen waters of the Arctic, offering glimpses of polar bears, icebergs, and the northern lights. Passengers raved about her stability in rough seas and the hearty Russian cuisine served on board: borscht, pelmeni dumplings, and fresh caviar from the Barents Sea. But beneath the glamour, she was a workhorse, often chartered for scientific expeditions studying climate change and marine biology in the polar regions. As the Soviet Union crumbled in the early 1990s, so did Orlova's fortunes. With the collapse of communism, FESCO struggled financially, and the ship was leased out to various operators. By the late 1990s, she was under the flag of Malta, chartered by companies like Quark Expeditions for Antarctic cruises. Reviews from that era paint a picture of fading elegance. The ship has character. One passenger wrote in 1998, "But the plumbing is Soviet era, and the vodka flows freely to make up for it." She carried explorers to places like the South Shetland Islands, where passengers could kayak among penguins or hike volcanic landscapes. But maintenance costs soared, and by 2006, Orlova was showing her age. Rust creeping along her hull, engines sputtering in the cold. Enter the turning point. In September 2010, while docked in St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada, the ship was seized by Canadian authorities. Why? A massive wage dispute. The crew, mostly Russian and Ukrainian sailors, hadn't been paid for months by their operator, Cruise North Expeditions. They were owed over $250,000 in back wages. Stranded in a foreign port, the crew staged a protest, refusing to leave the ship. "We have no money, no food, no way home," one engineer told CBC News at the time. The humanitarian crisis escalated, Local charities donated meals, and the Canadian government stepped in. After weeks of negotiations, the crew was repatriated, but the ship remained impounded, racking up $100,000 in docking fees. This seizure sparked an international scandal. The ship's owner, a shadowy Russian company called Iris Expeditions, claimed bankruptcy, leaving Orlova to rot in harbor. For 2 years, she sat idle, her once polished decks covered in bird droppings and graffiti. In 2012, a scrap metal dealer named Hussein al-Sheikh bought her at auction for $950,000, planning to tow her to the Dominican Republic for dismantling. But fate had other plans. On January 23, 2013, the tugboat Charlene Hunt began pulling Orlova out of St. John's Harbor. The weather was brutal, gale-force winds and 10-meter swells in the North Atlantic. Just 24 hours later, 50 miles offshore, the tow line snapped. Orlova broke free, drifting aimlessly into the open ocean. Panic set in immediately. The Canadian Coast Guard dispatched a rescue vessel, the Atlantic Hawk, to recapture her. They managed to attach a new line, but it too failed in the storm. "She's a hazard to navigation and the environment," warned Coast Guard officials. With no engines running, they'd been stripped for scrap. No lights and no crew, Orlova became a 4,000-ton floating hazard. Oil tankers and fishing boats were alerted to her last known position, 46 degrees north, 52 degrees west, about 250 nautical miles east. Now, the ghost ship phase begins. For weeks, Orlova was spotted drifting southward on ocean currents. Satellite imagery from the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, NGA, tracked her via emergency beacons to lifeboat transmitters that activated automatically. On February 1, 2013, one beacon pinged at position 49 degrees, 22.70 minutes north, 044 degrees, 51 degrees, 34 minutes west, roughly 1,700 miles from Ireland. Media went wild. Headlines screamed, "Cannibal rat ghost ship heading for UK." Why rats? Reports claimed the abandoned vessel was infested with thousands of rodents, starving and turning on each other. "It's like a floating horror movie," quipped one tabloid. The Irish Coast Guard prepared for her arrival, but by late February, the beacons went silent. Orlova had vanished. Let's break down the timeline in detail, based on official logs. January 24th, tow line breaks. Canadian authorities declare her no longer our problem once she enters international waters. February 4th, NG. A satellite detects her drifting at 1 knot toward Europe. February 20th. A weak signal places her 800 miles off Ireland's west coast. Then, nothing. No wreckage, no oil slicks, no sightings. Maritime experts calculated her path using the Gulf Stream. She could have headed toward Scotland, Norway, or even back to the Arctic. But searches by the UK Maritime and Coast Guard Agency turned up empty. Who was behind this mess? Dig deeper, and you'll find a web of shady dealings. The scrap dealer, Hussein al-Sheikh, was a Pakistani businessman with ties to dubious shipping firms. He claimed insurance on the loss, but rumors swirled of deliberate sabotage, perhaps to collect payouts or avoid environmental regulations on scrapping asbestos-laden ships. The original owners in Russia denied involvement, but Fesco's archives, declassified in 2015, reveal Orlova was plagued by mechanical issues since the 1980s, engine failures in 1987 during an Arctic cruise, a fire in the galley in 1995 that injured 3 crew, and structural cracks from ice impacts in 2004. Crew stories add human depth. Take Captain Sergei Vdovenko, who commanded her in the 1990s. In a 2014 interview with Russian media, he recalled, "She was tough, built for the ice, but the seas don't forgive neglect. I once navigated her through a blizzard off Kamchatka. Waves froze on the deck, turning her into an ice sculpture." Or the Ukrainian cook, Olga Petrova, part of the stranded 2010 crew. "We lived on canned soup for weeks. The ship felt cursed even then." These personal accounts, pulled from CBC documentaries and Russian naval forums, paint Orlova as a symbol of post-Soviet decay, grand ambitions sunk by corruption. 1330. As months turned to years, theories exploded. Theory 1, she sank in a storm. Oceanographers like Dr. Simon Boxall from the University of Southampton modeled her drift. With her low freeboard and heavy superstructure, a rogue wave could capsize her easily. No debris? Currents scatter it over thousands of miles. Theory 2, piracy. Somali pirates were active in the Indian Ocean, but Orlova was in the Atlantic. Unlikely, but some speculated scavengers boarded her for scrap metal. Theory 3, the cannibal rats myth. Exaggerated by media but plausible, abandoned ships do attract rodents. A 2014 BBC report debunked it. Rats would starve or jump ship long before cannibalism. More outlandish ideas: UFO abduction, fueled by her sudden beacon silence, or a Bermuda Triangle-like anomaly, though she was far north. In 2014, a hoax photo circulated online showing Orlova washed up in California, quickly debunked as Photoshop. Even the Pim Darude Salvage Company offered a £1 million reward for her recapture, calling her the ultimate prize for ghost ship hunters. Let's compare to other real ghost ships for context. Think of the Mary Celeste in 1872, found adrift off Portugal with meals uneaten, crew vanished, or the SS Bechimo, an Arctic trader that drifted unmanned from 1931 to 1969, sighted 49 times before disappearing. Orlova fits the pattern, human error plus nature's fury, but unlike those, she had modern tech, GPS beacons, that failed mysteriously. In a 2019 CBC long-form investigation titled Into the Abyss, journalists traced her paper trail, from Yugoslav blueprints to Canadian court documents. They interviewed the tug captain. She just slipped away like a ghost in the night. By 2015, most experts concluded she sank. The International Maritime Organization, IMO, updated protocols for towing derelicts post-Orlova, requiring double lines and satellite trackers. Yet, sightings persist. Fishermen off Greenland claimed to spot a rusty liner in 2017, though unconfirmed. In 2023, on the 10th anniversary, a Russian documentary crew used drones to search her projected path. No luck. Zooming out, Orlova's story reflects broader issues in shipping. The industry scraps 1,000 vessels yearly, often in unsafe beaching yards in Bangladesh or India. Her escape highlighted environmental risks, potential oil leaks or asbestos pollution. Advocacy groups like Shipbreaking Platform used her case to push for stricter EU regulations. Financially, the saga cost millions. Canada spent $34,000 on the initial seizure, and insurers paid out over $1 million. Personal tragedies linger too. The 2010 crew's families still seek unpaid wages through international courts. One widow, Maria Ivanova, told reporters in 2018. "My husband came home broken. That ship stole his spirit. And what of Lyubov Orlova herself? The actress died in 1975, a year before the ship launched. Some say it's bad luck to name a vessel after the dead." As we approach the end of this deep dive, consider the enduring mystery. Where is she now? Sunken in the Sargasso Sea, entangled in seaweed? Or still drifting, a silent sentinel in the ocean's graveyard? Satellite tech in 2025 could spot her if she resurfaced, but the Atlantic's depths, averaging 3,000 meters, swallow secrets forever. If this tale gripped you, drop a comment. What's your theory on Orlova's fate? Cannibal rats, piracy, or just bad luck? Like and subscribe for more real maritime enigmas, like the SS Urang Medan explosion or the Bechimo's 38-year drift. In the next video, we'll explore the Flying Dutchman legend versus historical facts. Turn on notifications. Don't miss it. Fair winds and following seas, friends. Until next time, remember, the ocean gives, but it also takes, and sometimes it never gives back.